Our next speaker, who's going to be speaking on building customer success into your product, the inevitable direction of the SaaS business, is Roberto Jusino, customer engagement with Autodesk. So give him a round of applause.
Hey everyone, it's actually the direct opposite. It's pretty hot in here, right? I may have to take off my jacket, so I apologize in advance. So just a little brief intro on me. Here we go. So I run customer engagement. There's a bunch of other stuff I do, but let's just focus on customer engagement now. Basically customer success. We have a lot of different names at Autodesk for customer success. I actually run the largest SaaS business at Autodesk. It's also the fastest growing SaaS business at Autodesk. It's called BIM 360. It's construction software, basically. So we manage across the entire life cycle of construction companies. I joined about 2 years ago. And when I joined, we had some interesting problems that we were trying to overcome, particularly. One, we had continuously increasing recurring revenue. We were growing extremely fast as part of that $2 billion Autodesk business. Our customer expectations were increasing, so they wanted more help, more support, more customer success, more product, right? And we have increasing competition. So we have a lot of point solutions out there that are kind of nipping at our heels, trying to take our cheese. At the same time, we were driving this massive transformation in our business when we were going from enterprise to down market, right? And as we moved across segments and across that chasm, what we were seeing is that our adoption was actually decreasing because we were investing in many different areas and not enough. Right, and our renewal rates were actually decreasing in certain segments as well, particularly in our largest segment, which was enterprise. Right, interestingly enough, that's where we had been traditionally really, really good at. And ultimately, what we see is our cost was rising and our margins were going down. Right, and this is an interesting thing when we talk about customer success. The question is, do you just keep adding people? Or do you actually start to optimize process and start to build product to drive out customer success? And that's where we were, right, in terms of we couldn't increase our margins anymore in terms of labor, in terms of adding staff. And I also didn't think it was the right thing to actually do, right? We wanted to start to challenge ourselves in terms of our processes and challenge ourselves and challenge our product teams in terms of how do you build a better product and how do you actually take customer success out of the equation? In other words, how did we continue to grow at over 100% year on year, but actually maintain our customer success team flat? And that was the challenge, right? So tall order. About how many of you are facing that one way or another where you have to kind of maintain customer success flat right now? Okay, so let's talk about that. So we went ahead and we kind of, a little bit of background on me. I've also implemented customer success in a past life before Autodesk with over 100 product groups. So I've been lucky enough to experience this across a lot of different industries and a lot of different customers. And through those kind of 5 to 8 years, worked on developing kind of what's the customer success evolution look like, right? And the end in mind has always been how do we drive or how do we provide our customers with a money-back guarantee? And that's always been the challenge I've proposed to all my teams and to all our product groups, right? And the question that the hypothesis that I devised is, that we've devised, is saying you got to build customer success into product, right? You got to bring customer success out of the customer success department and into the center of the entire organization and be part of specifically product and how you develop product, right? So talking to you a little bit about that now. On the bottom, we have different phases of kind of the customer success evolution. First phase, I think we've all gone through that, and I'll ask for a show of hands in a second, but is the one-to-one customer success team. So you have a team of people calling on customers, speaking to them, trying to get them to drive value and renew. So I mean, show of hands, how many people have a one-to-one team? I would hope I would see almost everyone with their hands raised. Okay. Then we transition to the one-to-many piece of customer success, which is starting to drive out engagement campaigns, whether those are email campaigns, whether those are in-product messaging campaigns, setting up a team of people to actually go and do that type of work. How many people have a customer campaigns organization in their group? Okay, cool. Almost the same show of hands. As we start to think about product, and let's start to think about how we can start to create sensors within the product to start to understand what our customers are doing within the product. But most importantly, understand what our customers are doing at their job, at their desk, in the field. That's the part that starts to become more interesting for us, right, and very important to us. So the next part here is actually starting to develop predictive analytics and start to predict the behaviors of our customers. So getting in a team of people to focus on developing those behavior segments, driving out cohorts, and starting to drive out those campaigns across the organization, across our customers. Now, how many of you have this type of team in your organization? So I would say about 5% of the people who raised their hands, right? So, and last but not least, and we talked about that now, once you start to understand the behaviors of your customers and you start to develop cohorts, what type of information can you drive back to your product team to help them show the value, right? And I'll talk about this a little bit because this is the journey we went on at Autodesk and the journey that I've gone through with a fair amount of ex-customers on trying to show the value. So I have some assumptions in the next slide, but we'll work through them. How do we begin to show the value? One is map the work. And this is a really important one because as we think about this, we'll start to do customer lifecycle maps and everything like that. How are people utilizing our product? But notice I didn't say map the product. I said map the work. That's quite different, right? Mapping the work is actually going in and understanding what are our customers actually doing at their desk, at the field, how are they doing that? As an example for BIM 360, we actually were going on site to projects that are being built here in San Francisco and understanding how people were utilizing the product and how we were changing the way they did their work, right? And that was key. We wanted to understand how are we actually changing the way to do their work. Are they doing their work the same way as they've always been doing, just with our product, or are they doing the work differently? And that's really, really important because as we think about this higher level, this is really about optimizing your product so it's not a commodity, optimizing your product so it has a direct value proposition that no one else does, right? And that's key to customer success, and that's why I think everyone here, as customer success practitioners, are incredibly powerful at driving that value into product, right? Two is tracking that value. Now that we've mapped that work, understanding how people are doing the work and how we're changing that work, is understanding where they're deriving value from that work and how we're changing that, right? So traditionally in construction, people are going to go and they're going to build something, and oftentimes they build it over and over and over again because they're doing everything by paper, right? In BIM 360, we actually give them all iPads, and we have them do all the work they would normally do on paper on iPads, and they can collaborate across different teams. So what we started to do is map that value of that collaboration. If that person was collaborating on that iPad, are they actually saving time? And we would actually go and count that time. All right, someone's saving X amount of time. They're actually changing their process this way. They're actually making money, right? Secondly, are we tracking the value in people? And this is one that we oftentimes forget when we talk to our customers. At the end of the day, when you speak to that person, it's what's in it for them. If you're asking them to adopt your product and adopt the change in process, is it going to be easier for them to adopt later, right? So setting that mindset of how can I ensure that what we're building makes it easier for them on a day-to-day basis is really important, right? Thirdly is time. When are they actually getting the value? Is it 5 minutes within using the product? Is it 90 days? What is that, right? So really thinking about that when you go to a product. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about showcasing the value. So now we understand how customers are working, where they're deriving value, how they're deriving value, and when they're deriving value. The third thing we have the opportunity is now we have all this awesome data, right? And what can we actually do with this data within the product? And there's some really simple, cool things that you could do that we're doing, right? One is this week in review. Hey, all of your project managers did X, Y, and Z within our product this week, right? Very simple. And the reason we did that is because ordinarily we would be calling customers and projects and saying, hey, here's how you're performing on the product today. Here's what you could do different. Here's some best practices. What we're doing now is actually bringing customer success and having it owned from a customer perspective, right? Now customers are owning their own destiny at this point, right? I can't see there, but another one there is actually helping them understand user performance against optimal workflows, right? So we map those workflows, right? We understand what people should be doing. If we understand what people should be doing, we can actually tell people when they're not doing it correctly, right? So we can actually start to create performance scores on people doing the work, right? And actually push those performance scores out to stakeholders to then go actively manage those people, right? Some other examples just to think about when it comes to more the predictive side of things, and I'll show you something we're doing at Autodesk, which is super secret, so I blacked out a bunch of things that I can't show you, but it's still pretty cool. And I'll get in trouble, but that's okay. An example, if you kind of think about, let's say Marketo or HubSpot, you think we all probably send a bunch of emails to people. We just said we drive out a bunch of campaigns. Wouldn't it be awesome as you're building a campaign and you're entering your segment in, those systems are actually going back and telling you, well, based on this, your open rate is probably going to be 5%, right? Because we know the taglines you've sent before, we know the email types you've sent before, and things like that. That's a great example on how to build customer success into product, right? And now you're driving that net effect of that value going to that individual user and them getting direct feedback at that point. How we now do that is we sit down, we have training sessions with people, right? And we say, hey, here are the best practices other people are doing against other great organizations. You should go ahead and follow this. And then we try and check back if we can on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, hopefully a weekly basis if we're implementing, right? We're continuously trying to do this, right? But if we were actually to start to implement things like this, we don't need to actually do that anymore. And we can focus on the higher level things, right? Another example, and then I'll jump to kind of some really cool examples here. But another example is think about any of these cool sales tools now that are trying to generate leads, right? ClearSlide is a great example of a product that's built customer success into their product, right? How many of you use ClearSlide today? A few. Well, I think please talk to the ones that do use ClearSlide today. Really cool product where you actually present, just like GoToMeeting, but it actually tracks user engagement scores there. And what that allows to do is the sales manager, the customer success manager for that matter, can go in on a daily, weekly basis and receive a report on who's engaged more with their customers than others. And there's actually been talks, and they've actually talked about this, that they've seen a direct correlation between the success of their sales team and essentially the engagement scores within ClearSlide. Again, a really cool and easy way, relatively easy way to drive and build customer success into your product, right? So I want to give you an example of one company that I really like. It's run by Sandy Lynn. Where's Sandy Lynn over there? Raise your hand over there. A company called ClearSlide, a really awesome learning platform. We use it in customer success, so I highly recommend for you all speak to Sandy after this. But really thinking about, I'm sorry I can't walk that way, because I'll probably fall. But what we can see here is actually all the different learners within the system, right? And this would be a learning manager who's deploying course training out to the masses. You can actually see who's registered, who's completed, when was the last time they joined. Really simple and easy analytics and things that you can build within product to start to bring that power back to the users, right? And here's another view, which is really cool. Here's Sandy Lynn's profile, so the actual learner profile. You're able to see there how many courses you've been assigned, how much you've done so far. So really cool stuff that you can start to do. So I kind of talked at a really high level there, really complicated analytics that you can do. But if you think about it, it can be something really, really, really simple, and something that I think a lot of people here can incorporate or start thinking about with their product groups and what you can do to provide feedback directly. Now let me show you sorry for the ugly view, but I'll show you the super secret Autodesk way of the way we're doing this, right? And I'll probably get in trouble, so I'll go through the back door if you guys don't mind. So what we're showing here, construction, think about construction projects. We've gathered all that data underlying on how people are optimizing their workflows, right? What people are actually doing based on those workflows. What we've actually started to do is score that, right? So, and this becomes really, really cool. So think about that kind of head of operations is there. They have a dashboard that shows them which is the best project versus which is the worst project. Now, what does that do? Ordinarily, we'd be calling them and saying, hey, you have some projects that are falling behind and they're not really using the product the way it's meant to be, or they could be using it better. You should go talk to them, right? This they're getting on a daily basis as data changes at the time it changes, so real-time data of what project is being most effective and which one's being least effective. That head of operations can pick up the phone at 6 in the morning and call that project, the head of that project, and say, hey, you guys are in red. What's going on, right? And there's other views here that, fortunately, there's too much to black out, so I can't show you. But then that person, that operating person within the project can then go in and be like, which of my teams are not performing, or which of my workflows are not performing effectively, right? So what we've done is with being able to do this, we've seen some really cool results, and I'll show those to you, right? So we've been able to double our user growth. And I want to start to preface this with, we didn't add any new customer success people, right? But we were able to increase our user growth. 2, our renewal rates grew by 10%. No accounts were left behind. Before we started, we would probably touch maybe 10% of our accounts. In this case, we touched 100% of our accounts in one way or another. And of all the accounts that we targeted, 40% of those accounts actually showed the expected behavior that we wanted, right? So they actually changed from not so positive behavior and not so optimal behavior to optimal behavior,